If I told you, ordinary human, that I was from Agartha, a place where raw milk runs rampant like rivers, and only white people with chiseled abs, blonde hair, and blue eyes existed, would you believe me? Sorry, would you believe me? It's the correct spelling for you in Agartha is YUO, not you, not your stupid outer earth pronunciation. TikTok is a home of some pretty interesting trends, and I am on a weird side of TikTok. I'm on a pretty brain rot side where a lot of people use race as jokes, ethnicity, skin tone, a lot of this different stuff that I don't really agree with, but it's sometimes funny. And recently, and when I say recently, I mean in the past week or so, Agartha has been a trend, funnily enough. And for those of you processed milk drinkers, or not even milk drinkers, lactose intolerant individuals, that you disgust me. Agartha is essentially a mythological place. It is the conspiracy theory that ties into mythology and religion of Inner Earth. And Inner Earth is essentially exactly what it sounds like. It is Earth beneath the crust. And I'm going to say it right now, this place isn't real. This place does not exist. Or does it? So my screen is a little bit darker here because I'm going to read from Wiki. Agartha, also known as Shambhala or Shangri-La, is a legendary kingdom that is said to be located inside the hollow earth at the earth's core, inhabited by an ancient civilization known as the Agarthans. It is related to the belief in a hollow earth and is a popular subject to esotericism. So pretty interesting stuff. Well, at least it was interesting until TikTok, like it usually does, turned something that was relatively niche into a trend that is sometimes funny, most of the time racist. It started off as this insanely shredded white guy with like electric blue eyes, just taking this green bottle of just straight raw milk, drinking it while he was standing in the middle of like nowhere, in the middle of a pond or something like that. And he said, "I'm from Agartha," or some weird thing like that, some like pretty niche videos. And now every single one of the trend followers that I follow, because they're funny, hopped onto this. And a lot of those people are African American. A lot of those people are Asian. And if you don't know, there's a blue eyes filter on TikTok. There's a filter for everything on TikTok nowadays, but they use this filter and they say, like, they review their physique and they're like, "Me when you mention Agartha," and then it's like this black dude with blue eyes, and then it's like, okay, cool, you know, they're following a trend, funny video, that's nice. And then you look in the comments, and then the comments are also a pretty niche subject of humor. It's a pretty niche, but also pretty racist thing. And again, I will admit sometimes it's funny, but racism is not okay. But in the comment section of these people that aren't white, most of the time, any TikTok creators that follow this trend that aren't white, you will follow a lot of in these comments, you'll follow a lot of people saying like, "Oh, you know, like Agartha doesn't need diversity," or like, you know, diversity has hit Agartha, or like Agartha has been like TikTokified. And TikTokified is essentially taking a niche subject and giving it popularity. And this recently happened with something called AM, which is like this AI construct that kept 5 humans alive to torture them. And I think that something being TikTokified like that is not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes it's bad with music because and essentially with cars, right? I know I'm starting to ramble here, but the Supra Mark V, the Mark IV, and the Porsche GT3 RS are extremely popular on TikTok. And people who are in the car community say that those two cars have been TikTokified, and so therefore liking them is cringe, which is kind of weird. But back to the thing about AM, that thing, it was also pretty niche. It was a niche comic series, I think it was. And I think that being TikTokified was probably one of the best things that's ever happened to it, because it's really cool, really awesome piece of sci-fi there, and it got the population and recognition it deserves. And people are saying that the Agartha trend also got TikTokified, which I don't really agree with, primarily because it started on TikTok. And you could say, oh, you know, like the Agartha trend, it was niche and it was, you know, it was TikTokified. There was no trend about Agartha. Agartha is just a piece of, again, science fiction. It is a piece of mythology that revolves around apparently drinking raw milk and having blonde hair and blue eyes and being white. That's at least what I've gathered from the TikTok trends, because most of the time you will see people mentioning Agartha and white in the same sentence. And if you've been paying close enough attention, that kind of sounds like something, being white with blonde hair and blue eyes. And you're not mistaken when you make that correlation there. You're not mistaken, because TikTok is also home to a lot of degenerate jokes. It's home to a lot of offensive jokes. And if you say these offensive jokes outright, you will get banned most of the time. Banned, shadow banned, restricted, whatever it is on TikTok. So a lot of people will find these shortcuts. They'll find these workarounds. They'll find these euphemisms to use in reference to these pretty offensive jokes, and it's not okay. But I would be a liar, and you would be too, if you haven't found at least one of them funny. Now I'm not reinforcing them, right? I'm not saying that that's okay, because it's not. It's messed up. But sometimes they do strike a funny bone in me. Digging deeper into Agartha and where it came from, I found that Agartha is actually at the core of the earth, not just beneath the crust. It is a system of tunnels that connect all the continents, and it connects them into this one massive like mega continent or like city or country, whatever it is. And it's run by these old dudes called the Old Ones that have far more power and technology than regular humans. And I found some websites saying that it was connected to early Buddhism and just a lot of these very interesting things that I never really knew about. And I'm big into mythology. I love Greek mythology. I love Norse mythology. I love all these different things. You know, Poseidon's my homie. Zeus is my goat. But you know, it's I've never heard of this. It's very interesting. It's a very interesting thing to talk about, and it is probably something that your local crackhead speaks about when he gets his dose. You know, he gets really conspiratorial. He gets anti-government. He gets, you know, like oh, the birds are fake. You know, that they're drones. You dig 19 miles down underneath the ground that we stand on, the very ground that me and you exist on, and then you meet the Old Ones who connect all the continents via a massive tunnel system, and then you see Agartha, which is a massive continent. I haven't blinked in like 19 seconds, excuse me. But yet again, we see TikTok taking a niche subject, and I don't know why I'm doing this, it's like I'm Italian, but we see TikTok taking a very niche subject, turning it into a racist joke. And this is not new at all, because the primary thing that TikTok, I say TikTok not as in like, you know, the general gist of TikTok, but the niche. I'm also saying niche a lot. Very interesting, but it is the subject of dark humor, not dark humor essentially, but this kind of humor. And that community of TikTok has taken a lot of things from World War II around those few decades, and turned that also into some dark humor and racist jokes, if you catch my drift. So in general, just know that I don't really subscribe to these beliefs. You know, I subscribe to some of the TikTok channels that subscribe to these beliefs, but because I like to make fun of people, and because it's funny, and because I'm also kind of curious. It's pretty interesting to learn about this stuff, if anything at all, to be honest. Because I'm also going to be honest here, I didn't know about Agartha before this. I maybe have heard of it. I knew, you know, like there was a thought about like a Middle Earth, like a town beneath the Earth's crust, but I didn't know it was called Agartha, and I didn't know that you had to be white with blonde hair and blue eyes, and you had to drink raw milk to get in there. Very interesting. But regardless, if you're lactose intolerant, I'm better than you, and I will see you guys later. Stay safe.